in particular, because this aircraft, to some degree, changed the game. It's a development of the earlier MiG-15. It was conceived as an improvement on that, particularly in terms of its high-speed handling. The first flight of a proper prototype of this aeroplane took place in January 1950. State testing in the Soviet Union began in late 1951. It was available in insufficient numbers following service entry to be deployed to Korea, but it more than earned its place in Vietnam later. Rolling now, the WSK Mielets Lim 5. As soon as the MiG-17 came about, it was showing its superiority over its MiG-15 predecessor, which increasingly became a ground attack platform only. The MiG-17 was very heavily armed for its day with an extremely potent cannon. In fact, it went on to be armed with two 23mm and one 37mm cannon. The initial aircraft had a non-afterburning engine and entered full Soviet service in October 1952. But the MiG-17F model, known to NATO under the codename Fresco C, brought an uprated Simov VK-1F engine with Afterburner. And one of the main features of this display is the absolutely spectacular, almost Roman candle-esque Afterburner flames that you'll see emitting from the aircraft screen. The airplane also had a better gun sight and an improved fuel system. It wasn't supersonic level flight, but it had a supersonic dash capability in a shallow dive. And the MiG-17F came across all-weather interceptor versions, mainly the cannon-armed MiG-17TF, the Fresco D, and then the solely missile-armed MiG-17TM, the Fresco E, and the Soviet Air Defense Force, the PDO, used them well into the 1970s, and they became very widely used across the Warsaw Pact and the wider Soviet sphere of influence. It wasn't for long the fastest or highest flying Soviet interceptor, but it was an excellent dogfighter. Well, MiG-17Fs were the North Vietnamese Air Force's most agile fighters. One US Air Force report on their capabilities said they were, quote, rather old and simple, but they could still outturn aircraft like the F-4 Phantom. And North Vietnamese MiG pilots came to realise they could defeat the American jets by drawing them into a close-in, turning dogfight that was too close to the use of missiles and in which they achieved the kill using their guns. It was part of game maintaining visual contact with the aerial against American aircraft. And it was very interesting when the US Air Force came to evaluate and exploit MiG-17s that were made available to it both during the Vietnam War and afterwards, because it brought about a revolution in the US Air Force's training to combat Soviet planes. It showed that the US lacked a suitable similar air combat training program and that its formation and tactics were ineffective. From 1969, ex-Syrian MiG-17Fs were exploited by the Americans. And one US Navy report from a tactical evaluation said every Navy pilot engaged in the project lost his first engagement with the Fresco C. In fact, it was recommended by the US Navy that its A-4 Skyhawks, A-6 Intruders, and A-7 Corsair II pilots should not engage the MiG-17. MiG-17F model arrived at the top secret test base at Green Lake in 1972. It was part of the C Corps of the unit that became the 4,477 Test and Evaluation Squadron, famously known as the Red Eagles. It taught many important lessons to US military life. Early 16 fighting forces found the MiG-17 a challenging adversary in what American pilots would call a telephone booth point, close in, turning and burning. It's incredible to have this aircraft displaying for us the Polish Air Force LIM 5, which was delivered to that airarm in 1958. Until 1991, because just 4 years after that, it came here to Duxford. It was bought by the old flying machine company. The late Mark Hanna was, at that time, really expanding OFMC's inventory into classic jets, and this was one of them. However, it was never destined to be made airworthy in the UK, including when it was sold to a new owner who kept it at Bournemouth and North Wales. This Interland, after an absolutely splendid showing, please show your appreciation for Mateusz Strama from Hubar Aviation with the LIM 5. What a fantastic aeroplane to have over at Duxford for this 2026 display season. It took 4 legs for Mateusz to ferry the aircraft over to Duxford from Warsaw on Thursday. That's quite a logistical effort in and of Lancaster. Likewise, covering south.
On a hot day, we're down by about 5 to 10% on time.
As much as that. So, what sort of compensation does the pilot have to...